Welcome back to the desk, ladies and gentlemen. We're watching day one, game two of PCC8 Swiss Stages. My name is Ardog with the Triple G's, and I'm back with Lance and Mugiwawa here to help break down the games for you. We just watched VP Salesman absolutely dominate against Bronze Army, but now it's time for our next set of teams for game number two. We will be watching Flow State and Mind the Gap. Lance, start us off with what you know about them.
So, what we know about these two teams, Flow State, a familiar team. We had them in our last main event. They entered as our 3 seed. They did have a slight alteration to their roster. They have replaced Simba in their jungle with Warps now, who is taking over those roles as Simba has joined another team. Mind the Gap is a bunch of kind of familiar faces and kind of new players as well. We've got Dr. Flick, who's in the offlane for them. He is a new face, but he was pretty big in the Smite community, I believe, and maybe Paragon the Overprime. But he likes to play really unconventional things. That guy's been playing a lot of like Narbash offlane, which I love. Cheesy picks, I love different things, so I would like to see that. Nitro left Professors, went over and joined Mind the Gap for this event, so Nitro will be taking up the jungle role for them. We also have Pinzo moving. We've seen Pinzo fill in as a mid laner for some teams when he was needed because he is as flexible as he is. This time in that dedicated mid role, Wangle was able to convince him, hey, you're a pretty good mid laner. You should try that out, so keep your eyes on Pinzo for this. And then the duo lane is what I like to talk about with Mind the Gap. Purple Swan, I love my guy XFCX Juggernaut. Purple Swan is the best controller player in the world, hands down. It is not even close. He can play any role. He's taking up the support role for them. And then Kyaruga, who this is the first time we're going to see him on PCC. Kyaruga is a demon. I think that he is like a top 5 ADC in the game, period. We haven't seen him before. Keep your eyes on him. You're going to want to watch.
Sorry to interrupt, but we do have a change in the teams we'll be watching instead. I know we were talking about Mind the Gap and Flow State, but it's going to be Rogue versus Hive. So Lance, you were talking about Wangle there earlier, but we're going to be watching the Wangler, who is the star in the mid lane for Team Rogue, versus Hive, which we'll just pull up here for a second. Both of these teams have played in the PCC, but we can get back to you, Mugi, about what you know about these two teams.
Well, so Hive was a team that made the top 8 last time. I had the chance to coach that team, so I was like pretty happy with the final result. I have to admit though, like they have had some change. We still have Mr. Guru in the offlane, Nugslit in the jungle, with Boinks still as in the support role, but we have Warps that was the carry that moved on to Flow State as we have seen previously. And we also have Skype Hamster coming in because Atomic is not available to play on the mid lane. And I have to admit, I feel like Atomic and Warps were pretty key pieces of Hive. So I'm kind of curious to see what they can bring compared to like the Rogue squad that is kind of like a new squad in a sense, because we have Bondroot, Conte, Wangle, Penguin, and Haru. And yeah, basically you have Conte and Penguin coming from Team Immune that just won the Fang boost. A very strong team. Bondroot, everyone know Bondroot. Choice, like, love to say the good job Bondroot that we have seen in the video. And I feel like in terms of like quality and also like team synergy, I would give a slight edge to Rogue, but I can't wait to see Hive proving me wrong, because also Skype Hamster coming from the EU scene, also like a player that keep like growing and becoming better and better and better, and still like showing that he's probably going to be one of the great, I think in 1 or 2 months time, probably one of the top mid laner in the game, period.
I love watching Skype Hamster play. When you watch Fang Booth, he really stands out to me as one of the strong mid laners, because whoever he's up against, he's just able to make plays, and that's the mid laner's role, is to be able to rotate to whatever lane, side lanes, and also rotate if there's a little bit of a skirmish over in the jungle. He does a really good job with his rotations, but at the same time, he's able to scale and farm up as he should. But over on the Rogue team, instead of Haru though, we do have Neft, who is going to be playing as their ADC here in the Swiss stages. So I'm looking forward to see how Neft is able to elevate and play for his team in Rogue.
Right. And every time we talk about Neft, he makes his intro a little bit longer because he has not one, not two, not three, not four, not five, 6 Fang Booth championships. 6 of them. There have been 7. Neft has won 6 of them. He's also won a PCC. This man knows how to win. And basically, we are playing with Team Immune and Wangle right now. I also, yes, we've talked about like the Wangle Skype hamster mid lane matchup a little bit. These guys are homies. They spend so much time together. They're very good friends. I'm very glad they get each other in round 2 of Swiss, because the crap that I will see in Twitch chats and stuff on the Wangle stream and on the Skype hamster stream will be very fun.
And indeed, like that change of Neft coming in as the sub instead of Haru, it's also like good to mention that Penguin and Neft, like they're the dual lane of Team Immune, but they also have been playing like almost every single rank they played together. So like they really know how to play together. They're super in sync, like the synergy is top notch. So even with the ping, I think that's something that if I was Hive, I would be a little bit scared to run into.
I would be scared if I was Hive as well. But shout out to our new little features, because you can see down below we're able to highlight chats. So if you say whatever you want, actually say something safe and super hype, Choice is able to bring it down and highlight it here during broadcast for us. But thank you, Tedium, for that little comment. But that's not to say that the Hive doesn't have that synergy either. I think they've been a really good contender. They were able to make it out of groups last PCC. Mugi, you mentioned that you were coaching for the Hive, and they were able to work cohesively as a team. So looking forward to see what they'll have up their sleeve. But without further ado, let's head right into this draft. I am looking forward to see what the bans are. Is it going to be a little bit different from the previous game we just saw? Lance, are you expecting to see Zara's first ban again? We've got Hive, who's going to be banning first.
So much like Mugi said in our last draft, I think with the way that the meta is right now, it's much more open for who you can see banned. So yeah, we'll see the Aurora this time. You know, one of the newer heroes is a little frustrating to play against with the amount of CC and slipperiness that is within that kit. So I think a ban isn't something or a meta and like who is being banned isn't something we might see until we get to our main event weekend and the teams get a little bit more consistent into what they're playing. I know that Rogue and Hive have scrimmed each other, played against each other quite a bit, so they are familiar with each other's games. So taking that Aurora off, probably targeting Conte or the offlaner, trying to kind of slow them down. Don't want Bondred to get too big or Conte to get too big. But Rogue will be following up with the next ban. Mugi, what are you expecting to see?
Well, not sure. Like for now, I'm kind of not like risking it at all, but yeah, I fully agree with the Aura ban is probably like towards Conte. We have seen Conte like doing fantastic stuff with that pick on the Fang boost, and so we're gonna see the Kira ban. So probably they had done their homework, and here we can see like I think it's really targeting ban. I assume like Rogue will look at what chord it actually like played a lot, and probably there was this Kira there, and we're gonna like first pick a Muriel. Like I feel like prioritize the Muriel that early, it's kind of telling. So probably like I would say like a strong pick in the meta, but also a comfort pick for Boinks, I assume, and probably a strategy that Hive probably played a lot with. The Reversal of Fortune allow you to be much more aggressive. It makes things like more complicated. You can also have like aggressive lane, but also scaling lane, keep your option open. But there is counters. Like for instance, like I know Team Immune and here like Rogue with Neft and Penguin, they're very, very like able to play into a Muriel. Suddenly like maybe we see Penguin on a Decker, through on Ping it's slightly more difficult, but then you can like go aggressively and pick the Muriel time and time again.
This is very new to us because normally we don't see the Muriel pick, but at the same time, we've got the Iggy and Scorch as well as that Zarus response coming in from Rogue there. I love this because we know that Iggy and Scorch is going to go into the Wangler's hands. You know, we know Iggy and Scorch can really help burn down objectives, whether that be the Fangtooth, the Orb Prime. He's able to just put his turrets everywhere and just run around during team fights. But now we've got the response coming in from Hive with the Crunch.
Right, and Crunch, very good paired up with the Muriel as well. Crunch able to dive into those back lanes. You get the Reversal of Fortune put on top of it, then you knock up those priority targets as well, and then you get a knock up again with the uppercut. Really good ability to get to those back lines. Hopefully they pair it with somebody else who can get to the back of it, or that can stand in front and peel their ADC, or whoever they have dealing their damage in their own backline. But I do like those first two pickups from Rogue with Iggy and the Zarus. Howitzer, a great pick into Iggy, can kind of one-shot the turrets with the R2000 mine missile.
And we're going to have the Narbash being secured, so I think we don't really want to try like any super aggressive strategy. We're kind of looking more for the scaling, and here we have like also the Decker being banned to I guess I'm not sure why the Decker being banned. Maybe they have like some info, because for me the Muriel is already picked. We already have the mid lane, so maybe there is like some offlane shenanigans that are happening. I've seen violence on the Professor, like playing a lot of different offlaner, like a Decker offlane, Morigesh offlane. So maybe there is some stuff that they don't want to play into. But here we're gonna secure the Narbash, and I feel like probably the side of Rogue, they're kind of like, okay guys, we're gonna chill, we're gonna scale, we're gonna enter pit with our turrets, with the Narbash shield, and you're never gonna be able to contest us. We're gonna take objective, then we're gonna march away and keep until growing, until you can never do anything. So I feel like that's maybe like the game plan here, and so we'll see like how Hive react to try to maybe like go through, but they already have pretty good burst to be able to deal with the Narbash, I feel like, with the Muriel, Howitzer, and Crunch.
We're seeing that Sevrog ban coming in from Hive there. I'm really curious because why they're going for this Sevrog ban. So they're taking away that CC, they're taking away this big beefy hero, and of course we're seeing this Twin Blast pick from Rogue, which we know is going to be in Neft's hands.
And anything in Neft's hands, if it shoots, you got to point at a specific spot and you got to click on it. Neft has those God-given abilities to be able to do something like that. So I'd be a little worried about this. They have to try to find some way to kind of keep this down. They've got the Narbash on the side of Rogue as well to be able to keep the sustain up with Twin Blast. Probably going to build that Sky Splitter, get some of the lifesteal for himself as well. So we got to see some anti-heal come out of this. We got the Steel and the Murdoch picked up. So second game in a row, we're going to see Murdoch piloted as one of the ADCs that's going to go over to court it. Probably going to be a steal in the jungle for Hive as well. So maybe that goes to Nugs, although I know Crunch is one of his favorite heroes.
And also, like, the Steel can probably go into the offlane. We're gonna select the Quang, so on the side of Rogue, either Quang offlane or the Zarus offlane. They can like shift things around here. But yeah, like really pretty slow-paced game on the side of Rogue. Like they're really looking to scale that dual lane, not really looking to make anything happen because both Twin Blast and Narbash needs to scale. Iggy is gonna stop like anything from happening in the mid lane, and so I think we're probably looking at more the team fight later on. The side of Hive though, we have like pretty good front line with the Steel and the Crunch, but also the Muriel to protect, and Howitzer plus Murdoch in terms of damage. So kind of this normal like 2-1-2 composition with the Enchanter creating the link that they love to run.
And I really like the initiation coming in also from Rogue with that Zarus. We didn't mention that Zarus too much from earlier, but of course, I think the Colosseum is one of the top 10 ultimates in the game, really able to lock down and hone in on anybody, any hero, and we'll have to see how Rogue is going to be able to play around that Zarus ultimate and how Hive will respond to that.
You don't want to get locked into a cage with a Crash Bang Boom on top of you and 3 Iggy turrets focusing you as well. Wangler on the Iggy duty. I know for a fact Wangler doesn't love playing Iggy, but he accepts the fact that it is his responsibility to play Iggy for his team. He is kind of an Iggy one trick at this point, but I think that they're going to focus through the dual lane side of this map. I think that Bone Druid can kind of hold his own over here on the off lane for what he's going to be doing into Guru. And I know the way that Neft behaves in a competitive game and what he's expected out of his team and what he's expected out of his jungler. I would expect to see Conte over there pretty regularly.
And I feel like just to like on the side of Rogue, actually we can't really get like great initiation. Like, yeah, you mentioned the Coliseum, but actually if we look at the side of Hive, like, you know, you can cancel the Coliseum if you push the Zarus out of the cage, and we have the buckshot, we have the bull rush, we have the landmine, we have the crunch on forward crunch. So they have a lot of tools that I think they cannot really rely on that thing, and they probably will be more like, okay, we're gonna reception you, we're gonna wait a positional game with the Iggy, the Narbash, poking you at distance with the Twin Blast, and wait for you to kind of be forced to go in and try to react to that.
Game number 2 between Hive and Rogue. Let's share the spotlight with Woofy and Tedium.
Thank you so much, our dog Lance and Moogie Wawa. Is Woofy TG, the Danish Dynamite, here with Tedium, the legend himself, back again. It's been a while, my buddy.
Howdy. I was trying to think of something very quick off the top of my head, the Canadian, and all I got was Catastrophe. So I'm the Canadian Catastrophe with you. You had that one prepared. I didn't know we were doing that. See?
No. I always have something prepared. I always have something up my sleeves. But, I mean, Hive versus Rogue, that's a very interesting matchup we have here for you all today. Rogue pretty much being a little bit of a mixed match NA version of a mix of excuse me, Team Immune and some NA powers in Wangle.
Yeah, Wangle and Haru played together a long time on Rogue, and of course Haru being subbed out for Neft, which if I'm gonna sub anyone out and I have Neft as an option, sorry ADC, you're gonna take a break today. We got Neft as an option. Very very lucky to sign up with such a powerful substitute. But speaking of having things up your sleeves and having all these little tricks, I think I want to talk about Hive's initial combo in the draft. They prioritized this Muriel and this Crunch, which of course are definitely characters that go together really well. They can dive the backline really well. They can continue to combo off of each other. If she ults on top of Crunch, that's another knock up. Then he can knock up again. The backline is definitely going to be the focus when Hive is going for these fights. They also have a Steel who can dive as well. But I think they might have over-prioritized the combo because their backline might be traded in turn because the dive is just as strong on the other side of the map with Rogue's team. And I'm sorry, I like Rogue's picks just a little bit better.
Well, that's fair. We can all have our biases when it comes to compositions, but at the end of the day, it's about the execution. And we know that Rogue are definitely heavy on the execution side, but we'll have to see if Hive are a bunch of bumblebees just gathering nectar or a bunch of wasps stinging and being incredibly aggressive. Neft here trying to poke a little bit of holes in boinks just to show up and say, I'm here already, so you should be careful.
Yeah, and as we see, level 2 already taken by Wanderer there in the off lane. So Kwang going to continue to poke down, but he's going into a steal, so not a lot of kill potential very early on in this game. It's the duo lane where I think the most fighting is going to be happening. One thunk and some damage from Neft is going to deal so much and could potentially get a kill onto that side of the map. But if you look at the off lane, it's an invade from Zarus onto that 3 camp, and there might be some action going on at that blue buff in just a second because both junglers are in the area.
Yeah, this is Conte, a new player in the team of Team Immune that has been playing some amazing jungle plays, especially with picks like Aurora. But this is my first time seeing him on Zarus, and I know one thing is for sure, is that Conte loves to invade the enemy jungle and get as much farm as possible before an engage. So we might have to wait a little bit before we see an actual engage from him. But let's just be honest, once that happens, you gotta be careful because that's followed up by a Colosseum.
Yeah, a Colosseum and a crash bang boom, tethers, Wangle turrets. Lance said it in the draft, you do not want to be in that cage.
No, absolutely not. And Bundred here getting poked a bit by Nuxlet. That does not want any favor to go the way of Rogue, which is a pretty smart idea, all things considered.
Look, both teams really just kind of want to get to that phase where probably they get one key ultimate online. Colosseum, of course, for Rogue. And on the other side of the map, it's the junglers as well. Crunch is so good once he hits level 6, but his ganks are a little bit weak prior. So both junglers not going to be prioritizing too many ganks unless they can get someone on the other team really, really poked out. But look, Howie can, deal damage from such a distance that he's probably not going to get poked too easily. Steel is just so tanky, he's probably not going to get poked too easily. And in the dual lane, there's shields and there's healing and also not a lot of poking. So both these teams are pretty much just going to farm, I think, until these junglers get 6, and then a fight is going to start happening around these objectives.
Yeah, and that's what we're waiting for, the objectives. But so far, so good. The start of the game will always be a bit of a little bit of a slow trip, but once it starts, it's on full speed ahead, and you just barely able to follow what's going through. But it's Wangle we have here in the mid lane, which is really good. It's great to see Wangle back at it again in the mid lane. Do you think that he has some good options for rotations in this matchup against the Howitzer?
Look, Howitzer is a much better ganker than an Iggy. Iggy really benefits from being able to set up, placing his turrets and being able to control an area that he has pre-selected as his own, as he gets his river buff there stolen by Guru Big Shield for the steal. But what Wangle can also do, not just, avoid ganks, but he's really good on these objectives because he can burn them down.
Conte is getting engaged by Guru and Nuxlip, but Bundrude notices and goes in to try and help. Conte's so low, and that's gonna be the first blood for the side of Hive. I did not expect that to happen. Now Bundrude has to do whatever he can to escape the fury of two tanky boys. You're just gonna stay back in that tower, sir. Good job, Bundrude, but well played to the side of Hive.
Yeah, Nuxlet has been, getting his side invaded, and so he said, not anymore, I'm invading you and I'm taking your life and your blink. The objective now a little bit probably going into the advantage of the Hive, because now of course their jungler is going to be ahead and he's much closer to 6. He's level 5 and Conte still only level 4.
Yeah, this is something I was a little bit worried about when I saw that Conte didn't get the lovely Aurora that they're so known to play. But that's just a really well-drafted decision from the side of Hive. They knew exactly what Conte loves playing, so now he has to adapt to this situation.
Yeah, but his second pick is usually the Kwang, so I'm surprised that it was actually Bondrud who was the one who selected that pick. I really did think when I saw the draft that it was going to be Conte on the Kwang jungle with the Zarus in the off lane, but I am glad to see that Bondrud is playing someone that he's quite comfortable on, as well as Wangle is forced to blink in the mid lane and now gonna lose out on this river buff. Looks like it is going to go to the Howitzer, and now it's the Fangtooth that they're going to be putting the pressure on with Wangle with no blink, and of course Conte with no blink and no ultimate. This is a free objective over here going to Nuxlet and his team.
Yeah, there's nothing you can do over on Rogue. You are not ready for this engage. It's too little too late, which means that the first Fangtooth of this matchup between Rogue and Hive goes the way of the bees. They have a nasty sting to them already at the 8-minute mark. And Tedium, what do you think are the options for an engage here? It's definitely high as Conte goes in with the Colosseum, but it does miss.
Yeah, in the brief moment that that the Hive was on that Fangtooth, Conte was able to get enough camps to hit level 6, and he uses his ultimate immediately onto the Muriel, who now has no blink. So Neft and Penguin, one thunk could end her life.
Yeah, and you definitely don't want to give any kills the way of Neft and Penguin, because this duo has been playing together for such a long time and they know exactly how each other plays. So here is a March to open up the ball, a Thunk as well to try and stun Boinks, but he does step aside just in time, and that means that they just have to reset. But as you said, do not underestimate how big of a deal it is that Boinks doesn't have their blink.
Yeah, especially now with Penguin hitting level 6. Of course, there is no CC coming out of the side of Hive in that duo lane. They need the crunch to be rotating in if they want to stop the crash bang. Boom. Muriel, one of her weaknesses, no CC. She's got a lot of poke, she's got a lot of shielding, but no CC. And the poke, in my opinion, is being nullified by this Narbash as well. The healing that he can dish out is probably enough to just eliminate all the damage that she could possibly do, as Conte is now in the river fighting up against Skype Hamster, who's going to fall into his lap.
Wangle is ready for the engage. The Make It Rain comes out from top, and that will allow Skype Hamster to keep himself alive for just a little bit longer. But no big abilities have been spent over on Rogue, so they knew that there was nothing more to gain from that. Bondrewd, in the meantime, trying to get the Search of the Heavens through. He will fall to Mr. Guru as the Shield Slam connects right on top of him.
I feel a little bit bad for Cordit there. That happens every time I play Murdoch. I'm gonna follow up onto the steel ult, and it just doesn't matter. He gets knocked up, and I shoot the ult right underneath him. But Wangle, though, in danger. Skype Hamster and Nugslet chasing him down. He is gonna fall to the crunch as Nugslet gets another kill, and now he's in the red side, possibly going to look for something, but gonna fall back. Hopefully, I think it's that mini prime. They have a lot of pressure, and I think it's a possibility.
Yeah, and this is what you were talking about, Tedium. The fact that this draft over on the Hive side is pretty much enabled by the combo of Nugslit on the Crunch and the power of the Muriel to go in with the Reversal of Fortune. But so far, so good. Nugslit has been doing his job, rotating around, getting the kills, making sure that his teammates could get out in due time. And with this 10.30 minute mark has just shown up to be a very big challenge for the side of Rogue.
Yes, and I love what Nugslit's doing. I don't know if this is meta, but I love doing it when I play characters like Crunch, when I play characters like Zarus. You get that Berserker's Axe, and I think he's going right into an augmentation. So it's just, I call it the big basic attack build. You go in, you dash, you hit a big basic attack. Use an ability, you hit another big basic attack. And that is all I like to do, as Conte is looking to get another gank here on this duo lane, probably onto Boinks, because remember, she's got no flash. Her only escape would be a Reversal of Fortune.
Well, in the meantime, Wangle is getting hunted down by Nugslit yet again, and Skype Hamster following up with some R2000s and mines. Wangle can really not play his game right now because he's not online just yet, which means that any pressure is just not gonna be enough for you to handle. Nugslit gets it with a forward crunch. Beautiful
and I
execution from the Hive side.
Once again, I feel bad for Cordit. Just barely mistiming that ult. He has missed out on 2 kills, which you definitely would love to see on your ADC, just based on some slightly mistimed ultimates. It's a real shame.
Oh my goodness, the Make It Rain and uppercut goes through. Hive gets another one. They're 0-5 against Rogue of all teams. The Ventilate connects onto Cordit, but he survives with just a bit of HP due to Boinks shielding his way. And that is not a situation you want over in this dual lane, because that is going to be a bit of momentum for the side of Rogue.
I mean, it might be all the momentum they've got right now. It's 0-5 for the favor of Hive, and look what's coming up. It's Fangtooth 2, and of course, they've got mid pressure. They've even dealt damage to the tier 2. Conte is down by 2 levels to the enemy jungler. This Fangtooth is also just really going to be pressured by Nugslit and his team.
Nugslit is literally hate crimes on Wangle this game. It is honestly quite disgusting how he keeps going for it. But that just means that he is playing the game right and making sure that Wangle cannot get ready for these objectives. Now Hive are going to sting at this second Fangtooth. Will they get it? Of course they will. And they're just gonna get out just the same. Rogue has had no answer to this Hive squad so far.
The thing about Wangle and this Iggy pick is Iggy's pretty good at defending against a gank, but one of the things he needs to do is have time to set up. But Nugslit's not letting him. Every time he gets to the lane, all the turrets have already been killed by the howitzer, so he dives on him, and he just keeps putting pressure onto Wangle, who has to keep retreating, and it's already dealt so much to damage to the map itself. Tower gone. 3 objectives already in favor of Nugslit, who has been not hard carrying his team, but so far he's definitely the MVP.
Yeah, it's just a full-on situation of just enabling your squad with your plays. You don't do that much fancy stuff, but you just make sure that the entirety of your squad can shine and get those kills and get online as soon as possible. And Nugslit has been doing that to a T so far. And usually we see Nugslit play junglers like Crunch and Seraph and other kind of brawly types. And I think it just benefits his playstyle really well.
Yeah, I love seeing him on characters like Crunch, also characters like Kai. He's a player who really just wants to go in and brawl, and Mr. Guru and Bondruid are going in and brawling themselves. Bondruid forced to blink into the mini prime pit, which should be spawning anytime soon, so that's another advantage. And Nugslit blinks in as well with an uppercut. The chase is on, and Bondruid is forced to ult away. Mr. Guru is not done yet. His ult comes out as well.
Well, the Nugslit combo is happening. It's the 2 tanky boys. They're brothers in arms, and they're gonna get another kill onto Bondruid. Once again, Nugslit just enabling a situation, but we cannot forget that shield slam really opened up the field for them to stop that escape.
Yeah, and Bondruid burned everything. Burned his blink, burned his ultimate, and it just still wasn't enough. And now it looks like everyone on this dual lane, Conte, Penguin, and Neft, they're in danger because they are the next targets of Nugslit and the Hive.
Well, these bees are dangerous. We're talking about Japanese hornets right now. They're stinging and they're biting, and you're gonna get hurt. You need to get out of there. You need to go away. You cannot handle them in their current state. But so far, what Rogue has been doing right, I think, is just making sure that they at least have the wave under control and make sure that they have the towers down for their side so they can keep staying behind in the tier 1 and farm up.
Yes, they do have the the towers, the tier 1 towers in duo and in offlane, but it's that middle tier 1 tower that is the most important, and it's Wangle who lost his quickly. So the advantages that amount of map pressure provides is just pretty much, maybe not, insurmountable, but it's a lot of pressure, especially here in this early game, as it gives so much advantage around these objectives. As Bondruid is going to go in again, his life ends once again to Nugslit. These team fights are they just keep going, and they just keep going in favor of the Hive, who just keeps getting these objectives, as another mini prime is going to fall in just a moment.
The Hive squad is ready to rock and roll. We are at the 16.36 minute mark, which means that it's still a mini prime. But let's not forget how much that has helped Nugslit enable the rest of his squad and get those kills. He is comfortably sitting at 402. This man is a menace, and you have to respect his name.
I'm proud of Nugslit because he's going into a little bit of defense there, as we saw when we looked at his item. And I'll be honest, if I was him in this game, I'd be going more damage. So I really appreciate his not being baited by being so far ahead, because I certainly would. And I really do think that's going to enable him to further his dives. Neft has remained safe, 0-0-0. He's got 189 last hits. He's ahead of Cordit in that farm, but his team is, I'm not saying falling apart around him, but the other lanes have definitely lost, and it's all because of Nugslit. So him, remaining ahead even is probably Rogue's biggest advantage right now. He was able to take the mid-tier 1 when that mini prime went down, so Neft, more gold in his pocket. He is really the savior of his team, and it looks like the Hive have noticed.
Well, Kai Hamster just finishing off that little engage with a Make It Rain to make sure that Neft falls in combat. That's the first death for Neft. But let's not forget the power of the squad here. They are using whatever they can, and Nugslit always just rushes in and says, "Hey, do you like the ass?" And then he dies. And they also just got the most free Fangtooth of all time, and it's the third one, which means that there's both 8% power and 8% defenses all across the board for Hive.
Not important at all, but I also want to point out Cordet had another unfortunate ultimate as he just barely mistimed the ult once again and gave Howitzer the kill. Luckily for Rogue, Conte does get a stack finally for his Colosseum, trades out Mr. Guru, who had just killed the Kwang, but because remember, they still have that mini prime on Nugslit. It's the tower here, the tier 2 tower in the duo lane that falls in the face of Penguin and Neft.
Yeah, this is just Hive doing Hive things at this point. I think we're going to expect this kind of playstyle from them going forward here in PCC8. So far, they have pushed one of the favorites to reach top 8, Rogue, up against a wall with spikes, and they can already feel it prickling at their necks. This is not a situation I usually see players like Penguin and Neft be in, but in this case, it just seems like they can't get anything going.
Do you think it was because of that Aurora ban? We always say Conte is not an Aurora one trick, but a very he loves Aurora more than he plays any other character that I've seen. But he's not a one trick. We're seeing him do a couple things here on this Zarus. He's also a pretty good Kwang. But yeah, Aurora is definitely the pick I think of when I look at Conte. So do you think that that's what's going on right now?
Honestly, I think it's because when Conte is on the Aurora, he does what Nugslit is doing right now, enabling his squad with some perfectly placed glacial charges and stuff like that, but he just can't do that here. He only has the Colosseum. And I'm just wondering why he hasn't used it as much as I would have expected, because honestly, you could maybe win a team fight or two with a really, really good Colosseum, but he's been saving it up for a rainy day.
He's really trying to... He's at the point of the game, especially in the early game, when you're playing as Zarus, you kind of just want to use it to either, you know, secure a kill and like guarantee a stack. So he's still kind of in that phase because he's lost so many engagements in that pit.
There is a shield slam on top from Mr. Guru. He is starting off the fight. Skypam's on top with the Make It Rain. The damage is coming through. The Trash Bang Boom is trying to save the situation, but it's too little too late. Mr. Guru will get it for his squad, and they're looking to go for the Orb Prime anyways, even though they've lost a lot of HP, because they know that if they go in, which Conte does, it's gonna be a problem. Guru will actually die to the power of the Inferno. Wangle opening up the field for the side of Broken. Now Hive are on the retreat, but looky here, Nugslit is still around. He wants to box it out and make sure that they know that Hive is not afraid of them. They're not afraid of the power of Rogue because they themselves are Hornets and they're ready to strike at any moment now.
I think Nugslit's going to go up into the tower. No, never mind. Up into the red buff. That's a free invade for him, as Conte just keeps getting further and further behind as Nugslit pressures this red side oh so often.
Well, at this point, you really tend to wonder what are the options that Rogue has in this situation. They're sitting 2-10, Tedium.
I do think they have a really solid team fight. Crash Bang Boom is really, really powerful. Kwang tether into a knockup. They've, of course, got the Colosseum. And Neft is ahead, sizably, on to his opponent. So I really do think that they have potential to have a really solid team fight. But they just keep getting picked. Nugslit is controlling everywhere that they can go in their own jungle.
They have no space to be in right now, despite the win conditions being right on the table. But that is just the power of Hive so far. They are able to make sure that you don't have any space available to you. Neft here trying to push out Skypamster, but he does manage to get away. It was definitely a really well-placed Vortex Grenade, but it was not enough to actually do any substantial damage other than just a quick reset back in the jungle, because he should actually be ready for this next objective without having to go back, but he does choose to go back and get some items.
One thing that is going to go in favor potentially of Rogue is the fact that both objectives, both late game objectives, are going to be up already at 23 minutes. Remember, Orb Prime obviously spawns at about 20 minutes, and it's also the Primal Fang on the other side of the map. So potentially what Rogue could do is trade out an objective. They have the Orb Prime warded up. They could elect to give it up and take that Primal which could then bolster what I said is already a potentially powerful team fight composition that they have. Though, if I am the Hive, I also would like to prioritize the Primal Fang. They are really winning this game off the back of picks, so more damage to enable those picks and then pushes afterwards is what I would say they want to do. They've taken a lot of towers off the map already. Now, of course, Inhib's still up, so Orb Prime is obviously very valuable. But it looks like they are actually going to start it with Nugslet on the other side of the map. It's going to be a race of the junglers who can get there first and get that secure.
And that is what Rogue noticed. They went right after it so they could position themselves. Nugslet boxing a bit with Conte here, and here's to make it rain on top against Neft. The Colosseum on top will keep them in check. The Shield Slam is connecting, and that is so much damage for Conte. Neft does manage to get a kill with a Vaporize, but is it too little too late to save this situation? Mr. Guru does manage to get Conte, and Neft is on the retreat. Guru is charging ahead with the Bull Rush. Wangle in the backline getting Skype Hamster. And at the end of the day, it's gonna be 2 for 1, actually in favor of Rogue.
Yeah, it's what I said. Rogue's team fight is really, really good. Conte survived so long inside of his own Colosseum, despite his health bar getting so low, not only because of his own passive, but also Penguin's healing kept him alive so long, and they dove and they dove and they dove, and remember, they used everything on Conte. Reversal of Fortune, Steel Dunk, and he survived both. That is the problem with this Crunch Muriel pick, is when you use it, you've burned everything for that potential dive, and if you don't get the kill, oh, your team fight is shot. And Rogue took advantage perfectly. Yes, Neft used his blink, Neft used his crest, so he is potentially in danger for this next objective. Guru might be looking for another attack onto that ADC, but it's the Primal Fang is the objective that everyone is looking at.
There we go. The engage is here from Mr. Guru. He's getting really low and he has to escape. The Colosseum is coming in from the top, and a Shield Slam is the answer from Guru. Will he survive enough? No, he will not. That's a stack on the Colosseum for Conte. Neft will try to hunt together with his squad, but they know that they already won the battle, so they're going right back to this Primal Fangtooth. And if they manage to get it, it's gonna be so huge against this Hive squad. They're starting to feel a sign of life. They're starting to feel like they can breathe again.
Without the steal, the Crunch is very, very weak because he's got no one to dive the backline with him, and then he just immediately gets burned, especially like that. Look what happened. Wangle and Neft combined to take down that kill. Cordit mistimes another ultimate, and Iggy was still inside the Epoch. Conte super low, probably going to go down to Boinks. Cordit finally gets that kill. But now everything is burned for the side of Hive, and it doesn't matter because Rogue gets that Primal. It doesn't matter how many objectives you're down, the Primal can turn around a game. Neft and his team played those last two fights perfectly.
Rogue coming back and swinging. They have had enough of Hive shenanigans, and they turn up the heat to 11. They managed to get not only the Primal Fangtooth, but 3 kills where they hunted them down and did not care how long it would take. They would go for it fully and wholeheartedly. So now they have opened up the field for actually engaging this Orb Prime. Rogue are starting to show up, and Hive really has to be careful here, because if this Orb Prime falls, it's gonna be a double bubble buff. Trademarked by TJDJ, the one and only, but regardless, that is not something you want to happen over on Hive. If that goes through, you're pretty much destroying all the momentum you had, and that's what's gonna happen.
Ooh, this is not looking good for Hive. Rogue, I said it in that mid-game point. I said their team fight is really, really good, and Primal is just going to bolster it. Hive knew that, so they couldn't engage onto that Orb Prime. They're going to lose 2 tier 2s at least, and I think they're going to lose at least 1 inhib as well, as the split push is coming out from them. 4 in mid, and of course 1 there in the offlane. That Kwang getting that tier 2 down. These inhibitors are going to be weak, and they still have everything in their pockets, all their ultimates. Actually, I guess they don't have Nefts, but remember, they also have that Primal, so you don't even need to fully kill someone.
No, all you need is just a bit of a dream and ambition, and you can make it. They're pressuring in towards this first inhibitor here in mid. Mr. Guru, Skype Hamster, Boinks, and Caught it all gathered up. They're going in with the shield slam and the forward crunch. Skype Hamster on top with the make it rain to deal even more damage. They managed to get the kill to start off this ball, and that means that they have to keep their distance lest they want to lose even more. But the good job Bondroot Club has started as he's trying to push into this inhibitor.
Yeah, but look at the minions on the other side of the map. They could potentially lose an inhib despite being double buffed up. It looks like the minions on the side of Hive are going to take down the inhib for Rogue. And the advantage in this fight is going in Hive's direction. The combo that came out from the howitzer and the steel, the boop into the double knockup, immediately deleting their support. And Narbash is one of the keys to an Orb Prime push because, of course, he's got that healing, he's got that movement speed boost, which also applies to minions. So he can keep these primed up minions who are healthier, who are tankier, and now healing. Oh man, the moment that he went down, their push was kind of destroyed.
Yeah, absolutely, Tedium. And honestly, I'm sorry, but I did not notice that Rogue's first inhibitor had already fallen in the duo lane. That's really unfortunate, but it might have happened during their engage on the objectives. And
it happened while they were going for the inhib. The minions on the other side took theirs.
Yeah, okay, that's a little bit of a trade that you don't want, because you don't want an inhib for no inhib when you're pushing. But that's
and when
the
you're double buffed
reality
up
of the situation. While you're double buffed up, this is actually what I would call a series of unfortunate events. And it was written by Lemony Snicket once. So let's see if they can actually turn it around. Rogue going for round number 2 on this mid inhibitor. They want to get it, and they successfully do so. They know that there's only one here, and it's Skype Hamster. He has to escape. He has to burn the blink. He gets crash bang boomed, and even with the reversal fortune, he had to burn the epoch. Make it rain on top, right onto Neft. He has to escape. Penguin is getting pressured by Nuxlin. He goes down. But there's an answer with the Vaporize to make sure that it's a 1-for-1 situation. Neft is keeping it up.
I don't really know why they didn't have someone push out the mid minions. I don't know why they didn't have anyone defending the mid minions. They sent all 4 characters all the way to the right-hand side to take a tier 1 in the off lane. I really think someone should have stayed in mid and just made sure that free inhib was, defended. I think that was a little bit of a macro mistake. Luckily, though, it wasn't a 2-for-1 for Rogue because, of course, the howitzer survived with the combination of Reversal of Fortune and the Epoch. But those utilities, those resources, they're down now for this fight, and the Primal Fang is looking to go once again in favor of Rogue.
They definitely have to set up ready with the power of the Wangle Dangle turrets. Mr. Guru trying to go in and answer to this situation, but Conte is ready for it. He knows that he just needs to keep them at bay. There's the Colosseum on top to keep them at bay, and the Primal Fangtooth goes the way of Rogue. They are now on the retreat. They cannot allow themselves to lose the buff they have gathered. Skype Hamster falls to Wangle and Neft over on the dual lane side, and now Hive are on the retreat once again. It just shows that Rogue are not out of this just yet. They want to keep fighting.
Look, I like the attempt from Hive. In that early game, Nugslit was controlling everything, diving into the backline. But now, Neft was strong enough, and now Wangle is strong enough too. They deal enough damage that dive now forces a Reversal of Fortune. But they've also been forcing Reversal of Fortune constantly in other engagements. They forced it earlier, so now when Nugslit dives, when Guru dives, there's no follow-up, and they just get bursted. So the team fights have really, really completely swung in the favor of Rogue. They were down, what, like 1-9 at one point? Was it something like that? And now it's 10-14?
No, we were like 0 to a 2-digit number at that point, like at the 20-minute mark. It was 121, I think, at the 21-minute mark. And now, sorry, my bad. I mean, 7-1, yeah. But they've turned up really, really hard. They just, They just jacked that knob to 11, and they wanted loud music, and now the neighbors are complaining.
Yeah, they also have a pretty strong late game composition. Of course, Neft on any ADC is strong in the late game, but this Narbash that he's been paired with, I love this character. He can keep so many team fights from falling apart like he's done multiple times, and there's just not a lot of CC, especially when Guru misses that shield slam.
Yeah, the reversal of fortune from Boinks will try to keep him at bay. Sky Panther will try to make it rain on top of Neft, but the Ventilate forces the Epoch out. He will fall. Rogue once again getting a kill. And that's such a big opening for their side. Noxley has to hurry, but it's too little too late. The Orb Prime has fallen once again to Rogue together with the Primal Fangtooth. They got the double bubble buff. They are like Nicki Minaj because they got bubbles everywhere. And Boinks, you are not going to survive this because Kansei is hungry for blood. He's just going to go for this. Will this be the last push of this game? We'll have to wait and see. But Noxlet, he tries his best to be of help, but he just can't do anything against this Rogue squad. Hive turned up great in the beginning, but Rogue just said, we got them late, boys. Let's just go for it. The enemy core is wide open. They're going right for it. They want to win this game here in the Swiss stage, and they succeed in doing so.
What a comeback from Rogue. Hive were stinging them all early game, but the moment that Neft had enough items, he bought the one item he needed, he got that fly swatter, and he started squishing the Hive. Oh my god, the comeback that this team just did was immense.
Absolute immaculate plays from the side of Rogue that turned up when they needed it the most. They became their own heroes. They did not need any help from the outside.
I will just say, I'm proud of myself for saying that they weren't out of it, because I've been in a negative headspace lately, and I'm just proud of myself for believing. I knew the team fights were going to happen. I knew that they were going to be able to do it, and it also helps that they had Neft, and of course they had Narbash, who I will always say is the best. He's the best character in the game. I love Narbash, and you get him to late game, he is going to keep every single member of his team alive, and trades are going to start going in favor of his team, and that's exactly what happened.
Well, as this game went rogue, we're going to send it back to our analyst desk with our dog, Lance Cecil and Mugiwawa.
Welcome back to the desk, everybody. Thank you so much, TDM and Woofy. We just watched game 2 between the Hive and Rogue with that comeback, though. That was fantastic to watch. Kansei, the jungler for Rogue, didn't do what he needed to do in the early game and was kind of losing out on the ganks by Nuxlet. And Woofy highlighted the lack of Colosseums in this game, but Rogue really turned it around during the contest for that first primordial Fangtooth. And eventually they had that double bubble buff. How did they turn that game around, Lance?
Well, they trust the comp. You sit back, you know who you've got picked for your team. You've got the Twin Blast, you've got the Iggy, you've got the Narbash, heroes that are just going to scale into the late game very well. We watched this between the three of us while this game is going on. Mugi, our resident genius, is just pointing out they can just sit back and wait. They've got the scaling on this side. They take the 2 Orb of Growths, get them into the Orb of Enlightenment on both the Quang and the Iggy. They know they have to wait for like that 18 to 20 minute mark to be able to get those to really pop off. They sit back. We have a Fangtooth curse. If you get 3-0 on Fangtooth, apparently you lose the game in PCC. They say all of the time, don't pay attention to your KDA. It is objectives that win games. We're going to have to think of something new to say to the solo queue players for their copium after this one, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it was, like we said, from the comps, we just need to see it, and then we'll be able to turn it around later on. So like the early game would always be like Hive favored. But I feel like Hive played the early game even better than what we were expecting. And at some point, I also feel like Rogue weren't like super like... It's gonna be a tough game because like they still got like the 3 Fangtooths, but they also got the 2 mini prime, they got skills, they got towers, like they played everything perfectly. But at the same time, they needed to be like decisive on the first R prime of the match. Like they really needed to get it. And here, like these players from Rogue, like they know how to extend a match, and we see like this Or Prime Pete fight, like they weren't decisive, and every Or Prime Pete fight that weren't decisive, it's to the advantage of Rogue, because then they keep scaling, we have to wait, we go back to base, we spend gold, we refight around, to the point that at some point on the first Primal Fangtooth, like Rogue finally get control of the pit. And once they get control of the pit, well, with Narbash, Iggy, like all those characters and the composition of Hive, as soon as the control of the pit switch, the game is lost. And we see that Rogue executed that perfectly. And in the end, superb defense by Hive, to be honest, but there never was any moment that they got a shot at winning the match after that point.
At some point when they let the minions take that inhibitor, I was like, okay, maybe, you know, Rogue won't be able to finish this time around, and Hive maybe has that chance, but that team comp from Rogue, they just really, they use the Narbash to their advantage. And when you're looking at the numbers and you're looking at how much healing that Narbash has done, he's done 28,187 heals for his team. But on the other side, we were talking about how Nugzlit was really able to accelerate his team, the Hive. He's got a 78.6 kill participation. So he was helping the side lanes. He was over on the off lane. He was over on the duo, but he was also on the mid lane. But just GG's, because Rogue just came out on top. What else did you notice, Lance?
I noticed the way that they positioned within pits and around those fights. After they get down 3-0 in Fang Teeth, Mugi pointed out to us again that Conte does the same thing multiple times. They go in, they lock down Nugzlit, immediately Guru pushes the up-down button to Steel Slam ultimate, and Conte just moves away. They know that it's going to bait that out every single time, and dedicating a shield smash to one individual player with as good of a team fight as it is, then sets your team back at a disadvantage. So then they rotate out, they bring Conte back into the pit, they bring Neft out. Since everybody's low, Neft cleans everybody up like he does every single time he's in a team fight, and they executed it perfectly. You could tell that that was very well practiced by Rogue. They've picked that exact composition. They've fallen behind in early games. They've known that they had to get the scaling going on, and you could just tell the experience of the team.
Despite all that, I still feel like there is a lot of good stuff from Hive, so I do expect them to make it to day 2 from what they have shown. Like, we have seen Mr. Guru like outplaying Bondrewd multiple times. He played like that matchup very well. Like, we have seen, of course, like Nugzlit like controlling a lot, but also like those Murdoch ultimate across the map that you can see they were practiced as a team, like Mr. going for the shield slam ultimate across the map, or Nugzlit timing the ultimate on the stun of the forward crunch, which require a lot of synergy as teammates. And all of that like kind of show good stuff for probably the future, and I can't wait to see what Hive is going to bring probably into game 2.
GG's, the Hive and Rogue. We unfortunately have to say goodbye to Lance and Mugi. It was a pleasure sharing the desk with the two of you. Lance, thank you for tuning in to the PCC. Everybody, Lance, go ahead and tell everybody how we can reach you.
You can reach me through the power of the internet. I am everywhere at the Lance Cecil. Yeah.
And of course, Mugi.
Well, as usual, you can find me on YouTube under Mugiwawa, but also on my website, predacademy.com, when I give you like a lot of tools for your use, and so like guides, and also like a hero builder if you want to cook some build like we have seen in the first match, the Quang Typhoon Prophecy by Tekken Kid. I don't know how it fared, but it won the game.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to the PCC. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back with game number 3.